How are you?
Good, Sean Gaffney. How are we doing?
I'm sensational. Can't complain. Can't complain. So, welcome to episode two of the West of Scotland Running podcast. And we've got a very, very good guest for you coming up within the next 10 minutes or so. We won't explain who he is just yet, but we'll just let you see who he is within the next few minutes or so. But anyways, Pete, so how's your week been? How's your training been going this week?
Not too bad, mate. Little bit up and down. Started off okay. In fact, start to the week was brilliant. Ran about 12 miles or so up in the Kilpatricks with a guy who I work with, different departments. It's the first time I've actually ran with him, but known him for a while. Runs for Dumbarton Athletics Club, guy called Mark Walsh. Really strong on the hills. Took me up there, did a couple of 2 mile efforts up and down the hills, which was really tough. Really good session of K reps on Thursday. Couple of lemonades on Friday night. So a bit worse for wear the last couple of days, but yeah, all good for a race coming up on Wednesday that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
How about you? How about
I'm
you?
okay. I'm okay, mate. I'm okay. I've just had a bit of a, ever since the national, had that niggle, IT band, hamstring, hip, whatever it was, but it seems to be kind of going away just now. So last week got in 40-ish miles, then today rounded it off for another kind of 40-ish mile week. So getting there,
Decent.
getting there. And then just on a Tuesday night with the guys doing the 5 minute efforts,
Yeah.
uh, doing five or six of them. I'm just hanging on for as long as I can. That Tuesday it was just 3 laps or so, just going at their pace. And instead of me hanging back, running slower, and I was just like, no, I'll just hang on to the guys as long as I can. But, oh, it's getting there. It's getting there. But yeah, that's what we can do. But one thing before we go ahead, Pete, you booze, you lose. Okay, so no more lemonades. If you want to run for
Listen,
Scotland, like again.
listen. It was just a one off. Yeah, I'm not really built for drinking at all. So it was a rarity. Works night out and a pre wetting the baby's head or heat. So yeah,
And those of you
but
who don't
no,
know, Pete is expecting. Well, his wife is expecting. Pete, he's just going to be the dad.
all, literally, all I want to do is try and win a race. Those I don't really remember those days, or apart from any sort of. I just want to win a race so I can do the whole celebration.
Oh yeah, yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
great.
I know. Yeah, fingers crossed. Not long to go. Just want a healthy baby, and then that'll be the end of my running career. So yeah, happy
Exactly,
days.
exactly, mate. So we're going to talk about a couple of race results first of all. So what's been going on in the racing world these
Right.
days?
Okay. Yeah. I'll take it from there, then, mate. Well, I think it's quite apt that we're going to talk about one. It's just a small race. I mean, yeah, it's just a little race.
Yeah,
I
just
think
a
the guy
little
that we're
95 miles.
Yeah, 95, 96, mate. I think the official, I don't know the official. Some people would say 96. I know that it's changed the course over the years, but I think the guy we're going to speak to shortly might know a thing or two about it. So we'll come on to that. But yeah, we off with a bang. West Highland Way Race. Obviously, massive race in the running Scottish running calendar, especially obviously in the ultra world. Anyone that's run any kind of distance over a marathon will know in Scotland will know of the West Highland Way Race, iconic race. So that was last Saturday. I'll try not to keep us too long because we've got a bit to get through. So race winner, a chap called Stuart Johnston, I believe, in 16 hours, 35 minutes and 31 seconds. So just try and get your head around that, Sean, running for 16 hours. So fair play. Hats off to him. Second place, Dave Ward in 17 hours and 3 minutes. So just shy of half an hour behind. He was the first vet 40 as well, first male 40. Third place was a guy called Stuart Ross. I think he follows our page on social media, so I believe so. Stuart Ross Media, if I'm
Hi,
right.
Stuart.
So shout. Yeah. So hi, Stuart.
Hi,
Thanks.
Stuart.
Hi. I've not met you. I don't know who you are, but thanks for taking the time to at least follow our page. And
Sure,
then
he's a
fourth place,
lovely guy. A lovely, lovely guy.
Stuart, dear.
No, I'm just saying, I'm sure he's a lovely guy. If he
Yeah.
follows the page, it just means he's an instant cool guy.
Yeah, almost up there with our don't know. I've kind of dubbed him as one of our favourite followers. Is it Jerry Gallagher? Is he green at Glen Park? I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, Jerry, lovely guy.
Yeah, shout out
Great
to
guy.
Jerry as well. I think that's all of our followers covered. Anyway, right, moving on. So fourth place, I've got again. Excuse my pronunciation. I've got Powell Simbalista, 18 hours, 4 minutes, 47 seconds. And then we're kind of going through a routine of doing the top 5. So in 5th place, we've got Matthew Bird, 18 hours, 19 minutes and 37 seconds. So well done to those guys. Although we're only doing the top 5, I'm going to come on to a race shortly where I came 6th. So it's a bit awkward. We might have to make exceptions. So on that note, it'd be rude not to mention a friend of mine, a guy that I've raced several times over the years, and more recently in the ACP 100K last year. Carl Gregg, fair play to him. I was covering it on the tracker, and it looks like he went off at a good pace, not suicidal. He's obviously a fit guy. He's got the experience. And he was certainly in the mix early on at the checkpoints. He came home in 9th, but it looked like it was really went into the hurt locker. So, but massive respect. 19 hours, 22 minutes, 32 seconds. But yeah, when I can only imagine, obviously I've been in the hurt locker over 100K, 62 miles, but 95, 96 miles, different ball game. So fair play. And then on to the women, 1st place, and we should mention 7th overall in the whole race. So amazing run, Alison McGill. I've only met Alison once, so I do know Alison, lovely girl. And yeah, really congratulations to her, because she was supposed to be running the Anglo-Celtic Plate for Scotland in the team this year in April in Craigavon, Northern Ireland, but she was injured. But she told the Scottish team that she was injured, and they still asked her to travel out with the team. So she was great there for support, etc. So I'm glad she's got that injury behind her and come back with a win. So 19 hours, 2 minutes and 41 seconds. Also the first Vet 40. So moving on, 2nd place, Nikki Arthur in the women's race, 20 hours, 15 minutes, 44 seconds. 3rd place, Jacqueline Wilson, 20 hours, 27 minutes, 36 seconds. 4th place, now I'm expecting you to come back with a quip here when you hear the name. So 4th place was Saki Nakamura in 21 hours and 26 seconds, 21 hours, 26 minutes, 18 seconds. So
I do love a Nakamura. Yeah. As a Celtic fan, it gave me so many good memories, especially against those little slugs, Man United,
Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce that, but it's Nakamura, you doughball. So just
Nakamura, yeah.
Right, and in 5th place, we've got Lorna McMillan, 22 hours, 22 minutes and 48 seconds. Again, we've got lots of results to get through. So quickly, first vet male 50 on the day was Robert Montgomery, 21 hours and 19 minutes. First M60, fair play to these guys doing that, was a Graham Hall, 22 hours and 3 minutes. First M70, I'll be lucky if I could put my socks on if I reach that age. So fair play. Andy Cole, I'm not sure if he used to play a bit of football as well. 32 hours, 42 minutes. Fair play, that's amazing. And then onto the women's side, as I said, Alison was the first Vet 40 and women's winner. And first Vet 50 was Paula Diamond, 22 hours, 59 minutes. And then, first women's Vet 60, Fiona Rennie, 31 hours, 52 minutes. And massive respect to female Vet 60s finishing that distance. Although we're only talking about the winners of the Vets races, it'd be bad not to mention, it looks like that race there, considering it's the women's Vet 60 West Highland Way, she was just literally 4 minutes ahead of the 2nd place Vet 60s. Can you imagine that over that sort of distance? So that I think it was a Sally Nichol in 31:56. So a 4 minutes, that's like half a second over a 10K. There you go, crazy. I will just quickly mention, since we're talking about the West Highland Way and we have a chap who knows all about it, the record for that race, Rob Sinclair, 13 hours, 41 minutes and 8 seconds, 2017. And the women's record holder, Lucy Colquhoun, 17 hours, 16 minutes, 20 seconds from 2007. So just to put those times into perspective, I gather it was a really hot one on the Saturday as well. So we'll hear more about that race from our guest shortly. Running through quickly, the same day, the big race was the Run Loch Lomond 10K, formerly the Valleleven 10K. First place, yours, well, not yours truly, but Inverclyde AC, big friend of yours and I, Gregor Yates, big Gregor, 31:55. Good run from him. I think he was retaining the title from the year before. 2nd place, a guy called Jonathan Moore, who I had the pleasure of meeting. He's a physio. He knows a friend of Alan John Myers from our club. Jonathan Moore from Motherwell AC, 33:12. 3rd place, Stuart Gibson, 32:26 from Cambuslang. Fourth place, Big Paul. Sorry, everyone in the West of Scotland who runs
Oh,
or in will know Paul.
everyone's heard them as well. If you've
They
ran
have,
beside
they have.
Paul, sorry, you've heard them as well.
That's right. And we've all seen the bandana. Paul, sorry, 34.39 from Shettleston, former winner of the race as well. And then in fifth place, Fraser Armstrong from Bella Houston Harriers, 35.01. And then closely followed behind from some guy from Inverclyde, but we won't talk about that. So that was that. Right, moving on quickly.
I give a wee mention to Jason Kane as well during that race. Jason, he's been trained with us on a Tuesday, and he's been running really, really well. He's been getting his PBs over 3K. He's actually every single 3,000 meter race he's did since December. He's won every single one of them, be it a club one or a miler meet. But during that Loch Lomond 10K, he was on course for like a time close to his PB. He ran 35.42, but he dropped his car key at some point in the race, and he had to go back and get it. And then obviously there's a whole crowd of people running towards him, so he ended up lost a bit of good, 20 to 30 seconds. So well done to Jason for for keeping that going after having to battle through people to get your car key back.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I looked back to see because I saw something that happened. He was just on my. We were together there. It was me, him, and Tamba. So yeah, quick mention there. Obviously David Tamburini as well. He was part of. We managed to win the team, so that was good. Inverclyde AC 13. Myself, Tamba, and Jason. Oh no, sorry. Jason was the fourth scorer. Obviously, Big Gregor was in front of me. Gregor, myself, Tamba, followed on by Jason. Cambuslang was second with Motherwell in third. Dumbarton team, the women's ladies, Dumbarton won the team, followed by Gas Cube in second and Motherwell. I should mention that the women's race, sorry, quickly on that. And also as well, I haven't met this athlete before, but great run because she was the first woman home and also the first under 20. Her name is, again, pronunciation, apologies if this is wrong, Mia Padmanabhan. Don't know how about the pronunciation. She's from Garscube anyway, but 37.51. Great run. Second place who was the first senior, but second in the race, Sophie Canty from Dumbarton, 40.20. Third place, Kirsty Mann from Shettleston, 40.44. Fourth place, Catherine Wiley from Dumbarton, 42.03. And fifth place was Gemma Morris, 42.35 from Motherwell. We need to quickly mention as well, there was a fairly quick sort of park run. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he was definitely going at sub 17 pace yesterday over in Edinburgh near Cramond. A guy
Definitely.
you might know.
Well under. I even texted him during it saying, by the way, do you know you're under sub 17 pace?
Yeah. There you go. So Andy Butcher, no Butchie, no party. 13.45. So breaking the park run world record, formerly held by Olympian Andy Badley. So yeah, 13.45. It's not bad. And second place, I think we won't go through all of it, but second place, not far behind him, shows you the quality of that run. Jamie Crow, 14.23. And I should just mention, I don't know this guy myself. You might do, Sean. I've not met him, but the course record, not the overall parkrun record, but the course record there was held formerly by a local runner, Ross Toole, I believe. So yeah,
Ross Toole doesn't run anymore. I'm pretty sure he had a couple of kids, but then he started doing park runs, pushing his kids in a pram. But Ross was an incredible athlete. I think he was British, either under 20 or British under 23 1500 meter champion. He ran 3:41. I think I'd have to check, but Ross was he had incredible speed. And I think Craig Woody spoke about when Craig Woody was there at the British Championships, and I think that Ross was like the favourite that year, and I think all the other English guys were all quite wary of him, and they said he got to 300 metres to go, and Ross just took off, and literally nobody could stand with him. That's how good an athlete he was.
There you go. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there's something to be said for people that have got those big finishes. They're such a great tool to have. Unfortunately, you and especially me, we are not blessed with that. But it reminds me of a friend of mine, Andy Rayner. Give him a mention. He'll come on and talk to us at some point. But he used to be a classic. I think it was a leech and unleash, it was called. So he would literally just hang on and then get to the business end of the race and bomb off he would go. But his hamstrings and Achilles are completely screwed now. So he's his days of doing that are long gone. But
sounds exactly like Chris Mackay.
Oh wow,
Sounds
that's some guy.
exactly like him.
If we're gonna, yeah, well, yeah, I know, yeah, he's got some pace as well. So there
Yeah.
you go. We'll maybe talk more about him another time and a famous
Yes.
head-to-head he had in the Battery with one of our hosts. So there you go. Right, just quickly going south of the border, only because it's a race that's sort of close to my heart. I've never won it. It's a race that I would love to. Well, I was third in it in 2013, winning it with 2K to go before the wheels came off. But less said about that, the better. But yeah, down the road today was the North Downs Run, which is a 30K multi-terrain race. I mention it as well because it was also the British Masters multi-terrain race, and that was won by Ed Bovingdon, who is his local club. Iceland and Ifield organised the race. But he's now running for Leeds AC. He lives up there, so he does a bit of training with the Sessmeister, Phil Sessman, and Emil Caress, who I forgot to mention in the previous episode, who was obviously the first Brit home in the London Marathon. But anyway, so Ed, I believe, does a bit of training with those guys. He won the North Downs Run today in a course record, 1 hour, 51 minutes and 42 seconds, 30K, 18.6 miles, completely up and down, really undulating. Great run, and it was really hot down the road today. And the women's race was won by Jennifer Arnson in 2 hours, 30 minutes and 21 seconds. So, yeah, almost 40 minutes behind Ed there, but that just shows you the quality of his run. But that's also a really impressive run. And quick shout out to our mutual friend Chris Biddle, who came home in I think around 2 hours 18 and was the third M40 in the British Masters. There we go. Right, I'll be the whiz through because I don't want to keep our guests late. So Friday the 23rd, just gone this weekend. Livingston AC had an open race on. You can help me out with the pronunciation, but our club mate Ben Petrikis, Inverclyde AC, 3:44.16, really close finish there. Great run. Second place, Gavin Smith, Cambuslang, 3:44.55 seconds. Third place, Andrew McGill, an under 20, so expecting a lot more to come from him from Livingston. 3:44 again, 3 minutes and 44 seconds. I think 0.62, so really close for the top three there. And then just behind those guys was Kieran Riley from Central, 3:47.23. And then our very own Peter Bradshaw, great run, PB, 3:48 and 15 seconds. Just quickly into the women's side, I've only got limited results that I can see. We've got Kirsty Walker from Edinburgh in 4:25. Kirsten Macaulay, 4:38 from Corstorphine. And we have Nicole, no, sorry, that's wrong, not Nicole. Mercy Sanchez Ola, I believe, from Edinburgh in 4:42. But that concludes the race results. Obviously, we could be here all day, lots of running going on, but they're some of the ones that have stuck out for us. So yeah, I think that's it from the result side of things, Sean.
Yeah, and then on Wednesday this week we've got the Scottish Veteran Harriers 5K at Clydebank Industrial Estate.
Yeah,
it's a very, very quick 5K. It's where I ran my PB a good few years ago. Well, a long time ago now. But what we will do, it is an open race as well. But obviously, if you're not a vet and you're not registered with Scottish Veteran Harriers, then you won't get a prize, etc. But you can still turn up and race. It's a very, like I said, very quick race around the industrial estate of Clydebank, sorry. And we'll put a link on as well on the Facebook page if anyone is interested.
Are you doing it, Sean? Sorry, are you running? Did you say?
Nope, I'm not running.
Are you going to come and spectate?
No, we'll see. We'll see. See, I work in the office on a Wednesday, so and I need to get my running in that as well. You know, miles make champions, Pete. I've got Valencia Marathon in December, so
yeah. To be fair, I'm not sure if the Scottish Veteran Harriers Club, if they've got what the sort of their budget is. I don't know if they can afford a former Carroll 5K winner. Sorry, so absolutely yeah, maybe next year.
They did message me, but again, I said, look, this is the fee. I've won the Kilmacombe 10K 3 times. I was the first ever guy to win the Kilmacombe 10K, and I was a Kill 5K champion. So, guys, if you can't afford me, then that's just it. But anyways, let's get cracking on and let's introduce our guest, who is Mr. Ian Beattie, race director of the West Highland Way Race and chair of UK Athletics. So, hello.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you, Ian. Excellent. This is also our first time meeting you, so thank you very much for agreeing to come onto the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, with yourself, you know, if those of you who don't know Ian, Ian has spent decades, in athletics. Going by I did a bit of research on you, Ian. We'll get more into that later on, though. But Ian, you were chair of Scottish Athletics and you're chair of UK Athletics. But the main thing for us today, you're the race director of the West Highland Way Race. And when I did a bit of Googling on you, also found out you've run over 100 marathons, 100 half marathons, and you've run the West Highland Way a good few times as well. So,
eight times, I think.
Yeah, 8 times.
Eight times I finished it. Yeah, I've started it another 3 times where I didn't finish it. So I would have.
Oh, right.
I've been on the route a few times over the years. Yeah.
Wow.
The 10 finishes, so you're in double digits then for the West Highland Way.
Yeah. Well, I'm only 8 finishes. 8 finishes I did, but I've had 11 starts. So my first attempt, my last attempt, I didn't finish, and there was one in the middle as well where I did DNF, which was certainly the most painful one. But
right. Can only imagine.
Yeah.
And through the power of 10.info, I also found out in 2008 you ran a 24-hour race in Perth as well, and you covered quite a distance, 171 kilometers as well. Wow.
Yeah, I mean that was actually, that ties into very much what I was saying about the West Highland Way. 2008 was a year I dropped out of the West Highland Way race at Rowerdenne, and I dropped out really early, and I did a very successful spell. I'd done it every year since 2000. Prior to that, apart from 2002 when I'd broken my shoulder, so and I finished it. It didn't even cross my mind in 2008 I wouldn't finish it, and I just had one of these days. It was terrible. I was in bits at Rowerdenne and dropped out, and it really floored me. I mean, I've never really known anything like that. It was a real downer for a few months, and I needed something else to get back and prove I could do it. And that was the reason that I entered the 24-hour that year that Adrian Stott was organising at Perth. And it sort of gave me a bit of self-redemption, really, to be able to go and last the course on it. But I really enjoyed it. There's something nice about it, quite privileged in a way to be able to run for 24 hours from the same place and see the full day pass before you. And I think I've done 3 24-hour races now, and I've always felt they are tough, but they're very enjoyable.
Yeah, I can only imagine, like, obviously in marathons, you maybe get to that point 20 miles or so, but in a 24 hours, like, you get to 16 hours, then it starts to set in, etc. Like, even running for like 16, 17 hours, I just can't get my head around that. But a lot of people do it, so.
They do, and I think I would probably say, I've always said to people, I think the marathon is the toughest distance, because I think you can go out and do the ultras and you get bad spells and you can have a bit of a break. You can sit down and get some food and you get going again. But the marathon, you guys will know that there's just no room for error. If you're going for a good marathon, then you need to get it right. And if you get it wrong at all, your pace, your time will quite dramatically. It's very hard to pick it back up in a marathon. So I always say to folk, I actually think delivering a really good marathon to your absolute potential is probably the toughest event. I think these ultras are a bit different from that, just a different mindset.
Yeah. And just to check, sorry, obviously that 24-hour race you mentioned in Perth. So was that North Park? Was it then? Was that round Luke's?
Yeah, that was North Inch.
Oh, wow.
It was I think it's there's quite an amusing story of the North Inch. The North Inch loop is 2.381 kilometres. And everybody listening might say, why on earth is he telling us that? But if you multiply that by 21, it comes to exactly 50k. And if you multiply it by 42, it comes to exactly 100k. And it's one of these bizarre coincidences that they've designed a course in Perth that doesn't need a different start and finish for 50k's and 100k's. It's just so yeah. I mean, it's kind of I'd say it's the home of 24-hour and 100k running in Scotland, the North Inch.
Right, okay. And like you say, you mentioned Adrian there. Obviously, I had the privilege of meeting him. Well, just a couple of times. I was at North Inch Park for my ultra marathon 100k debut last year, which went okay. I went through 50k, feeling pretty good. And then got to about 65k, and realised, wow, this this is something else. But no, Adrian's a great guy. Obviously, I was privileged to have him as the team manager for Scotland in the ACP this year in Craigavon over in Northern Ireland. But he's a real stickler for detail, isn't he? He's a real sort of professional, if you like. I think anything he doesn't know about ultra running, you could probably write down on a bit of toilet paper. Yeah, he just simply loved the sport. Great guy, really enthusiastic. Like, you can just listen to him speaking, motivational. The knowledge he's got, and I believe he was quite good friends with the late Don Ritchie as well. So yeah, he's a good guy.
He was. He's a great guy. He's a very close friend of mine as well. And
right, okay.
Adrian's involved in the West Highland Way Race. He's on the committee for that.
Yeah.
He's just a close pal. And as you say, I wouldn't even say ultra running. I'd say a lot of the stuff Adrian does across running as a whole. He organises the Scottish 5K Championships at Silverknowes, which is always a brilliant event. I mean, I think it's one of the top events in the calendar. To see all the fast guys take part in that is a real treat, really. So that's Adrian's race too, and he's just got a wealth of knowledge of endurance running.
Yeah.
So would you say, so obviously, even before 2008, you've had an interest in, the West Highland Way and 24-hour races. So would you say that was your main interest when you started athletics, was the ultra scene, or were you more into shorter distances and then you want to have a wee stab at the ultra distance?
Yeah, I built my way up to it. I started running in 1990 when I realised I got really quite unfit, and I just done the football referees course, and it sort of occurred to me, I thought, I'm not really fit enough to be refereeing. I need to get fitter. So I started running, and I refereed for a couple of seasons, but I really enjoyed the running. And then the refereeing became a bit of a stress. People criticising and abusing you. It's not a great way to spend a weekend. So I was down in Troon at that time, and I was a member of Troon Tortoises. And at that stage, it was 10Ks, half marathons, and marathons, and that was really very much what I did for really the first 8 years, I think, of running. I don't think I'd even really heard of an ultra for about 7 years. I did quite a few marathons in that time, and I did a few just sub 3 hour marathons. That was my kind of level. 1:17 was my best half, and that was my kind of best period of running. But 1998, in fact, it was 97 at the Inverness half marathon. I met a chap, Alan Kay, wearing a West Highland Way Race t-shirt, and I was sort of quite interested in that. Got chatting to him, and that kind of got the bug. And 1998 was the first year I tried it. I didn't finish that year, but I came back, supported somebody in 99 and 2000. Sort of went with a completely different training regime, completely different mindset, and finished it then. So.
Because I imagine, like, even that as well, with the marathon, you take on your gels, say every 5K or so, but it's mainly about pace management and hydration. But with likes of the West Highland Way Race, sorry, it's kind of like an eating competition as well. You it's not just a gel. You need to take on full meals to make sure you can finish.
I think the nutrition's quite difficult, and I always found that when I was running, one of probably the bit I would say I never got right. And I did spend some time one year with one of the Sport Scotland Institute of Sport nutritionists. I was on the Sport Scotland board at the time, and he was quite interested in ultra marathon running, and asked if I would like some help and advice. And I worked with him through all of that. And even there, it was still quite difficult because you're out for a long time, and the race starts at a strange time at 1 a.m. So you're trying to balance all of this. I know an awful lot of the runners struggle with it, know what to take, because I'm not. You can't just take gels for 24 hours and 95 miles or whatever. You need to do more than that. And some years it works fine. Some years I almost get into something. I'll have my breakfast at breakfast time, lunch at lunchtime, dinner at dinner time, and just top up in between, and that was great. But other years it was a real struggle to keep anything down. So that is a bit of a challenge. And I think the marathon's sometimes quite difficult getting the nutrition right as well. For many years, my marathon preparation or food preparation was having a full Scottish breakfast about 2.5 hours before, and people looked horrified. And I was actually
Really?
talking to a guy involved with Scottish rugby, and he said in the sort of 80s, that was what they did before games. They'd gone the full circle with the sort of toast and honey, and they're actually back now to much more of the full Scottish breakfast because they realise it's slow release. It's got time to digest as long as you have it at the right times. I thought, sometimes the experiments we do ourselves, there's a bit of a logic to. If it works for our body, then it can work pretty well.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, obviously you've done like many ultras and marathons, and you obviously clearly got a good degree of knowledge on the nutritional side of thing, which is still a learning game to me. As I said, obviously it was just my first. I've run lots of marathons, but it was my first distance racing anything over 26.2 miles last year in Perth at the 100k. So I didn't sort of I wasn't sort of blasé about it, and but I wasn't fully prepared. And so I've done a brief bit of research, but a bit like a lot of things I do, I said I'm not going to do it sort of religiously, the nutrition, but I've got a basic idea of what I'm doing. But obviously I've learned each race, I guess, is a learning curve. Speaking to a guy you'll probably know who's very experienced, Rob Turner, this year I was pleased to be part of the team with him. So I've got a little bit more of an update on the way he does things for sort of 100k anyway. But I guess two questions really. I mean, when we talk about the marathon, like you say, it's important to get that right, the carbo loading. But I just wondered, in your own personal experience and some of the other guys that you work with at the higher end of the sport, the sort of carbo bleed out diet is obviously quite an old school kind of routine where you sort of obviously you know what it is. You'll deplete yourself of carbs a few days before, and then maybe on the Thursday or the Friday before a race on a Sunday, then you'll start hitting the carbs. And the idea behind it is that your body stores more glycogen, and so I personally doesn't work for everyone. And so what I would say is me personally, when I've run my best marathons, again, I don't do that sort of religiously. I would limit my carbs for a little bit. So I just kind of do like a happy medium, if that makes sense, to kind of try it but get away with not feeling like rubbish. So I do that, and then I go into the carbs, and I've run my best marathons do it. So I just stick to my routine, as I guess a lot of us runners do. I'm happy to try new things, but that's what worked for me. And as I've already mentioned on the previous episode, my marathon PB back in 2008 is still on debut, which is frustrating because that went amazing. And I just thought, where can I go from here? And it never quite worked like that. But I've got very close to it and run some other good times and since then. But yeah, so I've done that. And then, about the bleed out. And then I guess my second question really is, I know we could probably talk all day about nutrition, but what are the main kind of key differences, I guess, from if I'm looking to go from, say, 100k up until something like the West Highland Way, what are the main key differences there?
Well, taking the bleed out first, I've not heard of anybody really using it for quite a while. It's when I came into the running, it was much more of a thing. But I think people's results on it were probably mixed. I think sometimes it worked, and if it didn't work, it went quite badly. So I think folk have been doing much more along the lines as you described there, a bit of maybe building up carbohydrates, but not depleting quite so much because of the risks associated with that.
Yeah.
But I think with nutrition, I would always say it's very much an experiment of what works for you. And if you've done something that you find works quite well, I would go with that. I think looking at the longer stuff, say the same about having to experiment out on long days, training days out in the hills, all that type of thing.
Yeah.
There's a huge variety of what people have done. But Richie Cunningham, I don't know if you know Richie. Richie won the West Highland Way twice in the early sort of 2010, 2011. Richie won it. Richie swore by cold mashed potatoes. He just loved them. That was his thing. And I guess when you look at the mashed potatoes, they're very high carbohydrate, works well. So that worked. He used that. That fueled his race. There was another chap, Steve Mason, who's sadly no longer with us. Steve won that 24-hour race, the first one I did in Perth, 2008, and was selected for the Scottish ECP team that year. And I always remember the story of everybody turning up with all their fancy nutrition, and Steve turned up with 24 donuts, one for each hour. That was his nutrition. And I think I just keep coming back to it. It's very hard to say to somebody, this is what you should do. I think you've got to try them out and see what your body can stomach, what it can't stomach, what it doesn't like, and so on.
Okay. So basically, Krispy Kremes is the way forward. Then I know there are other donut brands out there, but Krispy Kremes for the winner, right?
It was never my preference, the sweet stuff. I think probably what I found worked best for me was chicken and rice soup, because I felt I got the carbs from that, but also got a bit of a taste. And when you're out running a long time, the sweetness can just make you feel a bit nauseated. You need something else. So I found that I found it was much better. I've got a visitor here with my dog. I found it was much better having the savoury and the rice and the benefits from that. But it's I would say just test it out. The problem is that people react differently under the stress of a race. So what their gut might be able to tolerate in a training run might not work when you're a bit more nervous and all the rest. So just trial and error, really.
Interesting.
So say, as you've been race director for that's been quite a while now, you've been race director of the West Highland Way Race. So have you...
2010, yeah, I took over. Yeah, sadly, the previous race director, Dario Meloragni, died of a heart attack in 2009, not long after the race. But there was a group of us got together to make sure the 2010 race went ahead, and then we got a bit more structure to it. So I've been involved in the organising race directing since then.
I mean, and ever since COVID, because people couldn't go anywhere, they couldn't go abroad at all. I don't know about yourselves, but on my Facebook feed, it was just loads and loads of people going out into the Scottish countryside, up to where the West, people walking the West Highland Way, etc. as well. So, as race director, have you seen, ever since COVID, have you seen an increase in participation in the race ever since COVID? Or is it going to be the same kind of regular as you've had?
We've seen a bit. This year was our highest number of applications we've had. We just over 500 this year. We always restrict the race to 300 places, and the 300 places we expect to turn into something like 230 starters, because we know there's a natural dropout rate, and we encourage people who aren't fit to drop out. And we do give quite substantial refund to people up to the end of May to do that. So
Right.
So we have had increasing numbers, but not dramatically. And I think the trend across most races, what I'm seeing with my UKA hat, is that there's probably been a reduction post-COVID of people taking part in most races. The numbers of applications are down. I mean, the big races like London Marathon will always be massively oversubscribed, Great North Run, but there's probably been a reduction in the people. And I don't know the answer to that. We've spoken quite a lot about it, and I wonder if people have maybe just got into the way of doing their own challenges and feel that they're satisfied doing that, and COVID maybe pushed them in that direction. So there's some fantastic challenges during COVID and indeed afterwards. As we're sitting chatting today, I'm very aware. I don't know if you've been following Jamie Aarons, who's a good pal. Jamie's trying to set a record for doing the Monroes in the shortest possible time, and she's only, when I last saw this afternoon, she's only 7 to do, and that would be 31 days. She's not used any form of transport at all. She's kayaked across seas, cycled between Monroes and so on, which is
What was her? Sorry, Ian, what was her surname?
Aarons, Aarons. I mean, that's just a phenomenal challenge, endurance challenge, and I'm sure if she finishes it today or tomorrow, it'll be all over the papers tomorrow. Because it'll start picking up in this. But wow. People have been doing things like that. James Stewart did the John Muir Way. Somebody else I noticed did beat James's time last week. Folk are just looking and saying, actually, maybe don't need the formality of racing. It's just a bit of a personal challenge against each other.
It's funny you mentioned that about the John Muir Way, because such a small world. Obviously, that's literally my next door neighbour that did that last weekend, Martin Gray. But I believe, hopefully, I've got my info right, because he did it the opposite way. I'm sure. I don't know if there's a sort of a traditional way it's normally run, but Martin did it from I think it's Dunbar to Helensburgh. So coming back this way, I might be mistaken, but I think James did it the other way. So I think Martin got the fastest known time coming towards Helensburgh. But he's literally, I can almost see him from here. But fair play, he raised, I haven't checked his Just Giving page just yet, but his target, I think, was £1,000, and he's closer to 11,000 for the Beatson, which is a charity I'm sure we've all familiar with. So fair play to him. But so just some more West Highland Way chat, really. I mean, over the last few years, since I've kind of got the ultra bug, clearly I've looked into the West Highland Way quite a lot, and I've tried to do my research and look at the checkpoints, etc., and split timings, and then I do my classic take on things is for me to look up who's got the course record, look at their marathon PB, see if it's quicker than mine, see what times they ran and think. But obviously, yeah, it doesn't quite work like that. And so just the other couple of questions, I guess West Highland Way related is so you've got the Highland Fling and the Devil of the Highlands. Am I right? Is the Highland Fling, is that the second section of the race, or is that
the Highland Fling's the first section from Mulgai to Tyndrum? Yeah, right. The Devil of the Highlands is from Tyndrum to Fort William.
Okay, so I guess you would. I don't know. Tell me what you would probably recommend. I would say surely common sense would say it would be worth trying to have a crack at one of those first, I would think, or doing that. So yeah, I guess obviously it's the Devil's Staircase, I believe, is in the second part. I've heard all about that. The main section I've ran on myself. Again, my knowledge of it isn't that vast at all. I'm definitely not up to speed on it. But I remember one of my friends actually was recently walking a section of it. And I just looked it up on the map, saw where he was going. I thought, I'll run from that section to that section and do an out and back without really realising what the terrain was like or the elevation. And so I parked in, I think it's Balmahar car park, and then I ran over Conic back towards wherever I was going there. I ran out for a few miles and then ran back. So I basically went over Conic and back. And for me, I'm a road runner. I can run well on flat road, and that's it. Nothing else. The slightest incline, and it's just game over for me. So that was in the legs for a few days. So I guess just what your advice would be on if you were going to do your first one. And then the second thing, again, just I don't know if you're aware of that, but just a shout out. I'm trying not to name drop here, but being a former Blackheath and Bromley runner myself, obviously I know Phil Sessamon, who ran really well at the London Marathon this year. And I don't know if that came on your radar. He actually did the West Highland Way, which is phenomenal for me. Less than a week after London this year, he did it over 3 days. But yeah, on the Saturday, so London's on the Sunday, obviously, and on the Saturday, he ran the West Highland Way over 3 days. For a guy who's running a 2:10 marathon, that's impressive.
I wish I had known that. I was down at London for the marathon, and
right.
I think Phil was one of the top 3 Brits, so I probably presented him with his medal for that. But
that's right.
I wish I'd known he was up, because we stay very close to the sort of 8 mile point in the West Highland Way, and I'd have certainly got out to see him if I'd known he'd been there. So
there you go. Yeah.
But it would be fascinating to see if athletes of that caliber who are still at their peak in terms of the marathon. I'm always fascinated to see what they could do and what they could deliver against this race. I think it's quite different, and there's a need to get used to running on trails and on hills, I think. And one of the things, I've never been at that level, but from my experience, one of the things I think people maybe underestimate in their first year or first attempt at trying it is the importance of training the quads for coming downhill at pace, because it can absolutely ruin your race if you get that wrong. Equally, if you can get that right, you can make up an awful lot of time. Yeah. So that is a key. But on the other hand, I've always been a bit of a believer that a good endurance runner is a good endurance runner. And if you put the training and get out onto the type of terrain and train properly, then somebody who's a strong marathon runner has the potential to do well, I think. They're not two different things. It's the same it's ultimately the same skill base you need to run them. It's just a different focus, isn't it, and a different training. But
it's like Ross Edgley, the guy that swam around Britain. He says in his book, he's all big on adaptability. He's like, look, you get really, really, really good at something that you practice all the time. So it's just inevitable. The more and more you do it, the more you'll get better at it. It'll be hard at first, but eventually you will become like a master at it.
Yeah, and I think you'd said if you were to move up to the West Highland Way. I think people who live in the west of Scotland are quite fortunate, and they've got relatively easy access to the route. And my training was always, a lot of it was based around training on the route, and down to the stage of kind of, as you've just said, Sean, replication, knowing what each section is likely to take. When I was going into that race, I knew exactly what I should be able to run each section. I knew where I should be at points in time, and that must have given me an advantage over someone who'd just stepped in the route for the first time. I think I knew what was coming up. I knew where the big hills were. Fine looking at a map, but the map doesn't really show how technical the bit north of Inversnaid is. The only way you really get that is being on it and seeing. Other bits are much more runnable than that. So that was usually, I did a lot of my training most years on the West Highland Way. Other people say they get a bit fed up with it. They'd rather keep it for the race. It's all quite fresh. And again, it comes down to how you want to train. But I certainly found that doing the different sections and different parts, building up, just steady build up, start, end of December, 25-mile section, build up, 35 end of January, or 30-ish end of January, up to 40 end of February, 45 end of March, do the fling 50 odd, and then I would be a bit more specific. In May, I would always do a back-to-back 2 days where I did from Balmaha to Bridge of Orchy day one, and then did Bridge of Orchy to Fort William day two. And that kind of replicated getting up quite tired, how you would feel during the race. Now, people disagree with that and say they don't like the back-to-backs, they don't like this, but that kind of seemed to work for quite a group of us who did it. That was quite successful.
Yeah, I guess the training side of it is, I think for me, that's one of the sort of beauties of running. It's not an exact science, and some things work for some, others for others. So, but yeah.
I mean, it worked for my wife. Did it a few times. I kind of helped her through that with some training programs and so on. And she followed very much the same plan, and it worked quite well for her. So 5 weeks out, having this big weekend of a 43:35 on the actual route. She wouldn't start taping, nor would I start taping from that stage, but you'd certainly done your longest weekend and you were starting to move in a downward direction before the taper came through. So quite a few of us have used that kind of model over the years, and it's worked fairly successfully.
Maybe I could get a wee look at that plan afterwards then.
Yeah, no, very welcome.
But no, it's been brilliant having you, the West Highland Way, because we thought I'd get you on because you're a big name in athletics, not just for running the West Highland Way and taking part in it, but also with your professional career. You were chair of Scottish Athletics, CEO of Lindsay's, who sponsor the national championships, the cross country championships, which from Power of 10 I see you took part as well, and also UK Athletics as well. You're the chair of UK Athletics, and that must be quite an exciting time for yourself to be chair of UK Athletics when you've got so many Scottish athletes, doing really, really well, representing Britain, Jake Whiteman, being world champion, Laura Muir, Eilish McColgan, Commonwealth Games champion. You've got and Andrew Butcher as well, world park run, world record. You've got so many Scottish athletes performing really well whilst you are the chair of UK Athletics. So how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
Does it make you feel quite proud?
It's great, and I really enjoyed that when I was chair of Scottish Athletics, to see the way these athletes had come on. Because when I started, I started as chair of Scottish Athletics in 2012, and we just had a London Olympics coming up. I think we ended up with 5 athletes selected for the London Olympics, and none got through the heats. And to see the way that we've kind of developed from there into sort of 16 Scots going to Olympic Games and so on. I think there was maybe 19 at Rio. I can't remember the exact numbers, but not only going, but being competitive, and that's just followed through on quite a nice trajectory. We had a spell where Ailey Doyle was winning Olympic medals as part of relay team, and Lee McConnell before her had done that, and then we started to see the likes of Laura come through. But now we've got athletes like the ones you've mentioned who are actually winning medals at world level as Scots, which is just phenomenal. I was in Eugene last year, and I saw Jake win his medal and Laura win her medal, and it was just phenomenal. And I guess in my new role now, my role's a bit wider. It's a British role. I want to see all the British athletes develop well. We've got the likes of Keely Hodgson, who's just an incredible talent. That you see a lot others as well.
A couple of minutes left or so, but yeah, no, it's been amazing having you on, Ian. Thank you again very, very much for coming on. I did find a video on YouTube, the West Highland Way put on from this year. And if it's okay with yourself, I want to put that onto our page because I think I just think it's a great highlight of that day. That shows you the scenery of the Scottish countryside.
Oh yeah,
The
it's a
rugged
great video,
terrain.
isn't it? Yeah, I've seen that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I quite liked the finish as well. The finish was really good how you finish indoors as well. That's a really nice way to finish, you know, and you've got nice warm indoors and some lots of food and drink to get into.
Yeah, I think that video was made by a friend of the race, Josh Hughes, and he's done a tremendous job just trying to encapsulating it. And I think that the whole thing about the West Highland Way Race, it's just it's the feel and the community spirit of the whole event that we've got more than 100 helpers out there, people giving up their weekend to be part of what everyone thinks is something very special, and I think that film really captured that. One of the things I like is that the prize giving at the end, just about everybody waits to collect their crystal goblet that's finished. We have that 12 o'clock on the Sunday, and the atmosphere in the room's brilliant. People, everybody who's finished is a winner, from the person who crossed the line first to the person who crosses the line last. And it's one, I love it. I find that an inspiring weekend, just being out there with people doing incredible things at all stages of the field. It's great.
Absolutely. And Pete, have you got any other questions for Ian at all?
No, well, just I guess a couple of ones just from people that I know through the sport. I mean, obviously, now working at UK Athletics and previously working with Scottish Athletics. I'm just wondering how you know what the relationships are like working with the different governing bodies. Obviously, Scottish Athletics, Welsh Athletics, England Athletics. I know a guy myself actually who, again, going back to my Blackheath and Bromley Harriers days, he was a really fast runner, lots of potential, really quick 800-meter runner. I'm not sure exactly what his role is, but a guy called I don't know if you've worked with him or come across him, Ian. A guy called Chris Moss, Welsh Athletics. Do you know Chris at all?
Yeah, Chris is very much part of the team. It's development is his role. Chris oversees the whole development programs. He works with UKA, but works very closely with the home country. So yeah.
Right. Were you aware of just how quick an 800-meter runner he was back in the day?
I wasn't at first, but I'd found out subsequently that he was a very top quality runner.
Yeah. He certainly had that kick we were talking about earlier. So that's for sure.
I think that what I found with it is I'm really pleased the way that the home countries and UK Athletics are working closely together, because I think that's been a bit of an issue in the past. I think we're all clear on what we do. UK Athletics focuses very much on the top end, world teams, Olympic teams, Paralympic teams, and so on. And the whole club development side is down to the home country bodies. And I think the fact I've worked in both areas probably helps get these boundaries clear. But we have to work together if we're going to have a successful pathway for athletes coming through. They have to be able to come into the sport, get a great experience, great coaching, great training all the way through, and then be really looked after very well when they get to the top level to be world class. And that's our objective, to try and do that.
Brilliant, Ian. So thank you very much for all the information. That was a great conversation about the West Highland Way and your life of ultra running 24 hours and your life in UK athletics so far as well. It's been thank you very much again for coming on. It's for our second podcast. Really,
thanks for having me. It's been very enjoyable.
Yeah, excellent.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Okay, so as I was saying to Sean and to yourself just there, we've this is only our second one, so we're seeing how we go. I think it's going to really take off. But we started with our first guest with Derek last weekend with our quick fire round. So we've done it a bit back to front this time around. So I'll just quickly go through that. Just so we can see. Thank you. All right. So question one, we may have covered this already, by the way, but your best achievement or your proudest PB.
I think my proudest PB. If I could maybe say three, I think my proudest is probably my marathon PB. I ran 2:56 in Inverclyde for 1998 Scottish Championships, and that was probably my best marathon run. I always felt though that wasn't my best overall run. I ran a 59:07 10-mile at the Round Cumbria one time. Okay. Which stands out, and I also ran a 1:17 2:51 half marathon at Ayr in 1998 as well, and I felt the marathon maybe just didn't quite reflect these times. I always felt I had a sub 2:50 marathon in me, but it never happened. It's one thing thinking you have, and it's another thing doing it, I would say.
Right. Okay. No, thanks for that. And interesting that you mentioned the Inverclyde Marathon. We'll go through our quick fire round. I'm sure Sean will come back to you with a couple of quick questions about that, because that's a place that we obviously know very well, and we'll ask you maybe a quick bit about that. Second question, and again, I know you've obviously got your UK and Scottish athletics hat on, but feel free to answer this question or just give us an independent answer. But we would like to know your favourite male athlete.
My favourite male athlete?
Yes.
It's very, very, very difficult, isn't it? I Jake Whiteman is the one who springs to mind. Brilliant guy, great performer, great credit to our sport. So go with Jake.
Great, no, that's a great shout. Just quickly on the note with Jake there, I've only had the privilege of sort of meeting him once, and that was at a recent, or a few years ago now, Scottish Athletics Awards night. I got to chat to Jake. Again, there's honestly not a recurring theme here, but I think I had a couple of lemonades that night as well. But no, it's interesting that I mean, I can't really talk with my accent, but we're talking about the Scottish athletes, and I'm wearing the Scotland top here, but obviously, clearly, I'm from south of the border. But is Jake not actually from Dartford? Because obviously, you'll know his dad, Jeff, as well. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. So that clearly follows with favourite female athlete.
When I was sort of starting my running, I think I always found Paula Radcliffe to be my inspiration. She was world marathon best times and so on. So I would say go back. It's very difficult to say anybody else from the current era, because it's a bit like talking about your children. I like them all.
Yeah.
Laura, Ailish McColgan, we've got a very close relationship through the Lindsay side where we sponsor. I know Ailish really well. Ailey Doyle, I've worked closely with in the Scottish Athletics Board. There's so many, but I think picking out one as an athlete was probably Paula.
That's brilliant. Some great names there. Like you say, you've got an abundance to choose from there. And obviously, Paula was also Derek's shout for last week, a couple of weeks ago. But with Laura, again, I nearly got myself in the doghouse in my household, because my wife was playing netball at Scotstoun, and when I went there to watch her, Laura was doing a session on the track. So clearly, I just went and watched Laura train while my wife was playing netball. But there you go. Moving on. Okay. So fourth question: do you have a football team you support?
Well, I've always tended to. I've had a number of season tickets over the years. I've probably had season tickets about 5 different clubs. I've had season tickets at St Mirren when I was at school, Paisley. When I stayed in Ayrshire, I had a season ticket at Kilmarnock. I've had season tickets at Falkirk, and I've had season tickets with my boys at Newcastle. So probably Newcastle's the team I keep a closest eye on. But at the moment, Stirling Albion is my local team and tends to be the team I'll go and see. So
well, that's good to hear. Yeah, but again, St Mirren were mentioned in the podcast that Derek mentioned them about last week, and this is a strong Greenock Morton household I've got here. So we'll quickly move on. So favourite movie?
I'm not a big movie watcher at all. It's probably something like Back to the Future, which is not only my favourite movie, it's probably about the last one I saw. I just don't really sit and watch films at all.
Okay, and then we've got a few more to go. Your most interesting person you've met through running?
I've been really fortunate to meet an awful lot of people through running. Quite a bit of contact with Seb Coe, who the role he does is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've got to know Brendan Foster well,
right,
which is great. Folk like Steve Cram. I just met an awful lot of great people through that.
Yeah.
And again, it's really hard to single any out, I think.
Okay, that's fine. 3 to go. Favourite session running wise? What would your favourite go-to session be?
I think my favourite session was always a good tempo session where you were pushing with a lot of other people rather than anything structured. I loved the tempo sessions. I loved going along the front and Troon in a night with about 100-mile-an-hour wind into your face, and you're just battling with the other folk in that group to get along. That was always, I came back with a real high after that.
Sounds like the Esplanade in Greenock. So
yeah, sure, it's probably the same wind as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, and then number 9, your favourite food?
Favorite food? I think I enjoy Chinese. I would probably, if you said let's go out for some meal, it would probably be a Chinese I would go out for.
Good shout, good shout. I was at the Shanghai Shuffle on Friday, but again, there's not a recurring theme here. So move it. And then final question: phobia or pet hate?
I think my pet hate is, at the moment, looking at the way some of the things have gone and some of the way that the debate and discussion has gone, the likes of Twitter, where you have completely polarized views and people not prepared to listen to the other side. They form a view, they are 100% right, the other person's 100% wrong. And life's not like that. Life is there's always in between, and you can learn a lot from listening to people, even if you don't agree. So that's probably the thing that frustrates me the most, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. Yeah, definitely. I know a few people that have got their views and they're fixed, and that's it. You know, like you say, always. You know, like you say, you may not agree with them, but you're always happy to listen to another viewpoint. But there you go.
We've lost the ability to debate constructively and politely. It just everything seems now to be one side or other, and good or bad, and that frustrates me. That's probably my biggest pet hate.
Okay, well that's it from me. So thanks a lot. It's been a privilege to talk to you. And I don't know. I'm sure Sean Gaffney might finish off with a quick question. Well, I don't know whether you had anything to ask about the Inverclyde Marathon, but Sean, I know you're dying to ask a question in relation to our mutual friend and guide and coach, athlete, mentor, Mark Pollard. So Sean, I don't know if you've anything to finish off with.
No, just yourself. Chair of UK Athletics. Come on here. Again, thank you very much. I asked Mark Pollard, and he says, "Sorry, I can't."
No, are you not going to ask the question that you've been asking?
What's that? Oh yeah. I always used to ask people from Scottish Athletics what's Mark Pollard's favourite sandwich, and no one ever got an answer for me. Not even from Mark. Not even from Mark.
I've no idea. Mark's done a great job, and it's one of the things I like to see that Mark, the way Mark's come through, and others have developed into Scottish athletics, a bit like the athletes to some extent, that the people involved in the staffing side have worked their way through. Mark's now looking after the performance side, and it's been great.
Really Mark's a great guy. Obviously, me and Sean have both had the privilege of knowing him quite well. I've only got to know him in sort of more recent years since I've been up this neck of the woods. But yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Even his determination as well. Double Scottish cross country champion, and even though he's nowhere near the level he was at before, obviously working very hard at his job. He's now got a kid and stuff now, but he's still there every Tuesday, like keeping us honest and making sure we're working hard, and so that's the kind of guy he is. I think he likes to see people do well, and he'll do whatever he can to help people as well. So
he does, and I would never underestimate to me, being the Scottish national cross country champion was one of these things that throughout the time I was running, I always felt was a massive achievement. It's something that you can never take away from people. I always loved that. That was one of the best club days you could have. You've got the full length of the field. It was an event I always loved taking part in. But for Mark to have won that twice, as you say, is a great achievement.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just shows the kind of caliber athlete he is,
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on, Ian, and thank you again for coming on. And hopefully from this podcast, you'll see a lot more people taking interest in the West Highland Way Race as well.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you very much, and good luck with the podcast. Hope it goes well.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Cheers, then.
Take care. Bye-bye.